Hi everyone, Scott with CyberScribe.org, and in the last video I showed you how to download and install VMware ESXi, and I'm working with 5.5, and this is the Type 1 hypervisor, and it's a headless server, as you can see, so we're connecting remotely through this vSphere client. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to show you how to create a virtual machine in this from vSphere here. So right there, that's your button to create the new virtual machine. And we're just going to go custom, just so you can see the options. You don't need to do that. Typical is fine. See virtual machine version 8. We'll see that in a second. But here we're just going to go test. And we'll just go through the menu, and if there's anything to talk about, I'll talk about it. I only have one disk in my server there, and that's all it is right there. So we don't really have a choice. And these are just, think about this as backwards compatibility. So just your default's virtual machine version 8, and just stick with that. If you're using earlier versions of ESXi, then that's where you would go with these virtual machine version 7 or 4. Okay, next thing we're going to do, guest operating system, and I'm going to install a Linux one. And I'm going to do CentOS 6, 64-bit. So that's where your choices are for that. But you see you do have a lot of choices. So go through that. And number of virtual sockets and cores per virtual. So the thing is, right here I have, it's an AMD FX 8350, so it's they call it an 8-core machine. So you can go multiple cores like that. So see how I got cores and sockets there. I'm just going to say number of virtual cores, 2 cores. Okay, and you can do that more. Total number of cores. Think of this as like kind of what is the Intel thing? Hyper-threading. So that's kind of what we're working with here. But just number of cores, and I'm just going to say 2. You can change that. You can't, as you can see here, it says 4, but you can't go over what is on physically on your own, physically on that machine. And actually, I just totally screwed up there. This machine, what I'm working on, I'm on vSphere, okay, and that is, but the server itself is an Intel i3, so that's why you got these, and I got number of cores. It's a dual core. I'm going to say 2 sockets, and I'm going to say 1 core, okay. So that's that. So be aware of that. You can kind of screw yourself up thinking that your client machine and that hardware is really your server, but it's not. And I just showed you that right there. So next thing we're going to do, memory size, 2 gigs. My machine is only 6 gigs, so you don't want to be overcommitting. You can, but you can run into problems like that. So I'm just going to leave it at 2 gigs right there. And you can change all this stuff. Most of the time, your virtual machine is going to have to be shut off, and then you can change it, but you're not locked into any of these things. Okay, so 2 gigs. And the network card, you just keep that the same if you want. And SCSI controller, just keep that the same if you don't know what you're doing. And create a new virtual disk. You can use an existing one, or reuse, that's pretty nice. But I'm just going to create a new virtual disk. And thick provision, lazy zeroed, I think this allocates the whole 16 gigs all at once. Thin provision, I think that's your expanding disk. So we're just going to use, I got plenty of space, and we're just going to go with that. Thick provisioning right there. And we're going to keep all these virtual disk options there. Like I said, this is the advanced mode, and if you did the typical, you wouldn't have any of these. So don't think that you really need to make any, if you're going custom like I'm doing here, don't think you need to make changes to all this stuff, because most of the time your default values are going to be fine. Okay, and it shows you right there. Alright, so we're going to go finish, and it's going to be ready to go test here. So what we're going to do is, now keep in mind we didn't pair any ISO image, like boot image, to this yet. So that's the one thing that we're going to have to do, and I'm going to show you one way that I do it here. So we're going to go to Edit Settings, right there, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to Options, and we're going to say Boot Options. Normal boot, and then it says failed boot recovery here. When the virtual machine fails to find boot device, it's going to automatically retry boot after 10 seconds, and I'll show you why we're going to do that when we boot up this machine here. So we're going to do that right there, and we're going to hit OK, and everything else should be good. So we're going to power on the virtual machine, and you're going to see what's going to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to power on the machine, and then when it's on, we're going to add an ISO image, because my my client, what I'm working on right here, doesn't have a CD drive, so I just want to put in parent ISO and make it boot off of the ISO. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to start it up. Now there's a couple ways that you can get to this machine. This console here, okay, you're going to see right there, but also be aware that this right here, this will pop out, and it will pop out a console for you right there. And this is what you probably want to do, because then you can resize the virtual machine, make it full screen and all that stuff. Okay, so what we're at here is it's just trying to find like a boot device, and it's not finding anything. We haven't paired anything with it yet, so this is what we're going to do right now. Go to the CD, and go CD drive 1, and connect to ISO image on local disk. Do that, and then let me get to my CentOS 6.6. I'm going to go there, and we'll see if it boots. And there you go, we're booting right there. So that's how I do it. There's surely other ways to do it, but I just kind of, add it to the CD drive as it's going. So I'm not gonna. You don't need to know how to install an operating system. That's not what it's about. You just click next a bunch of times, anyways. But that's how you create the virtual machine with ESXi right here. Okay, and I X'd out of it. Keep in mind that you got that arrow. It's still running. Okay, so also too, just be aware of the console. Give it a couple seconds, but you can pop it out, and you probably want to pop it out like that. Okay, because then you can resize the machine and all that stuff like that. Make it full screen any way you want to do it. But there we go. We're good to start installing that new virtual machine, and we just did that with vSphere, connected remotely right there to 192.168.0.100, and we're good to go. Also, just last thing is you see power on virtual machine, reconfigure virtual machine, create virtual machine. So when you do things in ESXi, you're going to get these little messages, and that's pretty nice to have sometimes. You could see if it's completed, right, or if it's starting or not. So keep these things, keep an eye on these things too. And we're on vSphere. So that's all I wanted to show you in this video. So stay tuned for future videos.